those of you who are still here for being here. Our task in this final half hour is to try and, well, is to, I guess, reflect on what we understand to have been happening for the last 2 days, and see whether we can generate any kind of sort of coherent picture of where decentering is now and where it might go next. So you may have heard Amal and me discussing this during the break, but I'm going to have a try to sort of share some of the thoughts I've had about everything we've heard and just talked about over the last 2 days, and then Amal will come in with his version, and then we'll maybe have some time to think a bit about where might we go. But if we don't have that time, Debbie will be sending out, or has sent out, a feedback form or a comment form on this 2 days, and we'd really very much appreciate a very short form, but would appreciate your responses to that. Okay, so what can we say about decentering? Well, while all of the initiatives we've heard about and really much of what we've talked about involves some kind of local collaboration and helps generate some sense of community, I think collaboration and community are two terms that really rung out for me here. But while all that might be happening, exactly how it happens and what initiatives are like varies enormously. So, I mean, decentering initiatives can focus on any aspect of professional development. There's no particular model that they focus on. So we heard from Peru where teachers were working, where the project was working in the L1 to help teachers understand the curriculum that they were supposed to unpack, the language of the curriculum that they were working with. And then we've heard from other places, for example, Rwanda, where teachers are helping each other to expand their range of classroom practices. So there's no unitary focus. Decentering initiatives can involve a range of people and can involve either a small group, a community of practice, or can involve a range of people and activities. For example, Eric's presentation yesterday, the activities and the people were included not just schools and teachers, but also other teacher educators, teacher and educational administrators. And so that links perhaps to the notion of collaborative professionalism that's not perhaps exactly as was meant, but in Jason's session, but the same idea of decentering can involve professionals collaborating, not just within one branch of the ELT world, but professionals coming from multiple branches. Decentering can contribute to new knowledge construction and dissemination. Again, in teacher education, the teacher's lived experiences of working in the context can contribute to the body of knowledge that we think it's appropriate for the teacher educators or teacher education to provide for novice teachers. And since education systems are hierarchical and top-down, perhaps it's useful where possible for decentering initiatives to see if they can link with what the centre proposes. For example, somebody in one of the discussions yesterday mentioned that in their centre proposed that classrooms should be more student-centred. This is, of course, happening all over the world. And that suggests that teaching should be adjusted to particular learners. Can this be linked to the idea then of decentering, that teaching should also be adjusted to local context? Can we find connections in what we're trying to do with what our centres are saying they want? So there's a lot of variety and scope within decentering initiatives. However, I think they all share they share the reality that they need time to evolve, and that probably the first iteration of any challenging new decentering initiative has issues. So decentering is a learning experience for those leading the initiative as well as those participating. And so leadership of teacher associations and decentering initiatives matters a lot for sustainability. So leadership over time is really important, and planned systems for taking leadership roles to be changed over time will help initiatives to be sustainable. What are the potential gains? And I think what again has really struck me is that how much of what people have said about decentering really resonates with the research into educational change more widely, and the importance of teachers' feelings and emotions within educational contexts. So, today's sort of Herschel, Laurent, and Janu all really mentioned understanding engagement as important elements of participation. And this idea that how teachers feel is not just dependent on how they feel about, well, whether they can do their job according to external criteria, but also how others in their professional environment view and teach them. And if participation in decentering initiatives boosts confidence and sense of self-worth and sense of being listened to, then the positive personal effects from working in decentering initiatives are likely to positively influence professional lives. So again, this notion of collaboration and sense of community as a bonus, if you like. The collaboration that most decentering initiatives involve, the sense of community that they engender, is a bonus on top of whatever professional development they may lead to. What challenges are there? Well, I mean, obviously difficult, plenty. I mean, in a sense, many decentering initiatives directly challenge deeply embedded cultural and social and professional habits and expectations of the education systems in whatever country they take place. They challenge who decides what, who has the right to question, where is knowledge constructed. And so being so deeply challenging to sort of the received assumptions in most settings, decentering is bound to be a process, not an event, which is what Michael Fullan, who Jason mentioned earlier, says about change of any kind, educational change of any kind. Another challenge is that, of course, not all teachers are experts or interested in being so. So we need to be realistic about that. And not all educational leaders are completely blind to contextual realities. So decentering needs to be careful not to generate a new set of stereotypes. Decentering implies that teachers need to be part of the conversation. So if DC initiatives want teachers to be happy to be part of that conversation, they need to provide safe spaces. So the establishment of trust within decentering initiatives is really important. decentering initiatives need to remember that equality doesn't necessarily equal equity, as was mentioned yesterday. And also a challenge that Jason posed was, how do we actually find the information that can guide what we do locally? Is there information available? How do we find and utilize the information that is available to guide what we do at local level? And then a question that someone raised in one of the discussions yesterday: does the really greatly expanded experience among English teachers of virtual interaction across local, regional, and national boundaries due to the COVID pandemic and the skills that all of us were forced to adopt and learn as a result of that, does that have implications for the future of decentering or the future of decentering? So it's a very exciting and rich area for us to think about and for us to continue working in. But it's quite hard to fit it into categories. Well, it's very hard to fit it into categories. And so I'll pass over to Amol now for his thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin. I will try to stand slightly apart from the 2 days proceedings and try to put my reflections in sort of more conceptual or abstract terms. Whatever experience I had in these 2 days listening to various presentations and discussions, as well as observing the interaction on Facebook and chat box, I think I would put my build my reflections around 3 words, which I believe stimulate us to more thinking and deeper thinking. One word is collaboration, which has occurred repeatedly all across presentations and discussions. Not only the range of geographical locations represented among the attendees, or the themes of the presentations, or the backgrounds of people, there is immense diversity of needs, cultures, educational cultures, challenges, everything. But what seems to be running across as a common thread is everywhere there are efforts, especially bottom-up efforts, to address those challenges or to cater to those needs with the resources and knowledge and skills available with people. And many of these happening collectively. So in that sense, collaboration comes up again and again in the discussions. But I feel that we are also now looking at a more expanded notion of collaboration. It has come up implicitly in many discussions, that's my impression, and explicitly in Jason's presentation. We might have seen some positions where practitioner research, teacher research is presented as an alternative to academic research, the research done in university departments. And it's a kind of either-or position, while the kind of collaboration, that expanded notion of collaboration that we need to think of is not either-or, but and, both and. I remember when in India we started this teacher research movement, and Richard was there in one of the earliest sessions, we used the term building bridges, rather than seeing academic research and teacher research as rivals of each other, to see them as contributing different things from different positions and together benefiting the whole professional community. That building of bridges need to be expanded, not just between academics and researchers, practitioner researchers, but various agencies and stakeholders. The presentations about teacher education and teacher association links, or communities of practice, informal groups, small online initiatives, these are all, on the one hand, creating knowledge bases trying to understand their own context, developing some formulations, and also experimenting with various solutions. Collectively, all that can deepen our understanding and also give us lots of useful ideas and insights. So collaboration in that expanded sense is something that I feel the two-day conference is urging us to stretch our thinking towards. The second word that I think the conference, 2 days of the conference, at least made me think deeper into is expertise. I felt as if the moment we hear the word expertise, we first think of experts. And the word expert is so loaded in various senses that the baggage of connotations is transferred to the word expertise itself. But let us think from another perspective. In all these presentations, we found teachers, if I can use the word just teachers, ordinary teachers, doing lots of interesting things in their own context to tackle their challenges. In other words, there are literally millions of teachers all over the world who are surviving in their classrooms and surviving well in many cases, and trying to bring some learning and some benefit to their teachers. The very fact that they are able to survive and teach and even cause some learning proves that they are able to find what we heard people saying quite often, to find local solutions to their problems. Doesn't it indicate that there is some amount of knowledge, skills, experience, and innovation available with all these teachers? I think we need to see expertise in those terms. And I remember mentioning this yesterday, reporting from my room, that there was a sense that sometimes teachers are not themselves convinced about their expertise. I guess the reason could be a very different meaning of expertise that we might be carrying in our mind. But expertise in the sense of whatever knowledge, skills, experience we have gone through our first-hand work experience, that collectively may contribute to a huge knowledge base. And the third term that I think we might find useful to think about is center. So decentering is something that is arguably a desirable thing. And decentering is something that tries to resist centering tendencies. And here we came across lots of individual or collective community efforts to contribute to that decentering process in their own ways. But across all these, at least I personally feel that the notion of center has been accepted to be understood. While it seems to me that, number one, center is understood differently in different contexts. Number two, the notion of center itself hasn't been problematized enough. And therefore, number three, the decentering efforts, whichever are in practice and whichever we have listened to being presented, we probably may not draw enough insights and relevance to our context if we also do not consider what kind of centers are assumed there. I may even dare to go a step further and say that probably we are for the time being thinking of centers in global terms, but there are often a range of local centers, and centering as a problematic tendency operates at all those levels. And in many cases, sometimes it's more important to resist the local centering than the global centering, which is often remote for many contexts. So these are certain things which I think the conference is pushing us towards thinking more deeply about. And that, in my view, is a very important impact or takeaway from this conference. As Martin said in the beginning, this is a process. And every time we have a conference, we see that the process is going ahead in leaps and bounds. This conference is no exception. So I believe that there are many more people now who have joined this initiative, and let us put all our brains together and think more deeply, more problematically, more complicatedly about these things. So back to you, Martin.
Whoops. Thanks very much, Amal. So yeah, so you're the three. Where are we? The three words: collaboration, expertise, and center. Great, you know. And I agree with you completely that we, well, like so many terms that we use them without really exploring what we mean by what we are using. So where do we go from here? You seem to be suggesting that an exploration of these concepts would be one possible route to follow in the next year or so until we have our next glorious conference. Some of us will be meeting with the this year's Hornby Scholars in Warwick in April to sort of talk about this. So it's very useful to have these ideas to start us off. It would also be very useful, as I said at the beginning, if you could put any ideas you have on the form that is lurking somewhere on Google for you to complete. And I wonder whether anyone now would like to. We've got 5 minutes. Say anything themselves about where you think we might go next. Fair enough. That, I mean, don't, just in case anyone was burning to say something. Janu.
Yeah, Yunus wants to say something.
Great. Please do.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is fine. It's really interesting to hear all these great ideas and initiatives to further develop the decentring ideas. About the idea that you said where this decentring might further go. So maybe for the next conferences, this is my personal suggestion that maybe this conference could be done in one of the, it could be led by one of the least developing countries or one of the decentered, really decentered contexts in the future, rather than like the conference that we are attending now is completely initiated by the center itself. So this is a kind of suggestion from my side. If we could do it like in other decentered, local context that is led by the decentered local authority, that would be maybe better.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, yes, you point out one of the clear inconsistencies between the whole within the whole construct as it is at the moment. So yeah, something that is definitely something for us to think about, continue to think about, and wouldn't it be wonderful if the next conference were situated somewhere?
Can we just
sorry to come in, but doesn't it indicate that we need to be thinking more about the term center itself? Because what you see as inconsistency, I don't see anything inconsistent there, but probably Yunus has something else in his mind. So a live indication that these are some terms we need to go deep into.
I was just going to ask if Yunus could give us a bit more detail about how an online event like this one could be hosted by one of the other countries. By the way, this one is co-hosted by INET, which is in India, an Indian Teacher Association, and the Hornby Trust. So what's your idea? Any other detail?
I mean, to be honest, it needs more thinking on how to develop this idea, I think personally, but it's my idea is all about practically enabling the local context to be able to make such initiatives, to have such kind of creatives, maybe another name, maybe under another name, so under another structure, the local context can anytime start and revolutionize this idea of like taking their own initiative and preparing their own ideas of practically decentering. So it needs more thinking on how to expand this idea.
Sure. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't think anyone is saying nobody else can do it. But yes, it does need a bit more thinking. It'd be interesting to see what you all have to say at IATEF.
At IATEF, yeah, the Hornby scholars.
Richard has steered you towards Decentring.
Looking forward.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Richard asked us to. I've just put something in the chat, which is the link for teacher research IATEF or teacher research conference next weekend, next Friday and Saturday. You can find out more if you go to the link that's in the chat. Well, I think we're more or less on the edge of 4 o'clock.
Martin, can I just share a QR code for the feedback form?
Please do.
Sorry, also I wanted to say for those interested in, particularly in the African context, at the same time, unfortunately, next Saturday, there's going to be a global webinar where a group of African teachers are also going to be presenting about the research that they conducted in their classroom. So even though those initiatives are kind of at the same time, maybe if you have time, you can just join both at some point.
I will be sharing this QR code and the link via email to everybody straight after the conference. Thanks.
Can we quickly say a word of thanks to everyone, Martin?
Let's, so I'm sure why don't you do it? And I'll remind you if.
Yeah, please remind me if I forget anyone important, but we are really delighted to see that this has been a very wonderful 2-day event. And we would like to thank, we won't thank the hosts, either of the hosts, but we would certainly like to thank people from both the hosts, from the Hornby Trust as well as INET, who have helped us in organizing this conference. Special thanks to Paula and Debbie, who had been the backbone of the conference and have been working on the organization for how many? I think more than 6 months now. So thank you so much. And special thanks to all our wonderful attendees from different corners of the world. For many of you, this might have been very odd time to either stay late into the night or get up very early in the morning. But you did it and you joined us and shared your wonderful thoughts. So thank you so much. Apart from the feedback form link, at a later point of time, you will also get to hear about the publication from the first conference, which is due to come out soon. And it is going to be an open access so everyone can download and read it. We will be equally delighted if you share your thoughts on that publication as well. Your feedback will be always welcome. So thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Could we also thank all Amol's INET colleagues who have kept those of us who are technologically incompetent